recorded. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Santi Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vacharine Nivasesha Sunyavadi Prashna Chadasthanine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So it's come up automatically on this page here, which would indicate that's where we left off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Text chapter 1, text 31. And let me bring up Arjuna surrender unto me. As we know, we're referring to that. My iPad was out of battery, so I just charged it up a second ago. Okay, so let's begin. So at the top there's Mahalavanga Latika. You can begin reading.
Hare Krishna. Text 31.
Yes.
Okay. Text 31. Nachashrayo nupasyami hatva svajanam ahave nakankse vichayam Krishna nacharajyam sukani cha. I do not see how any good can come from killing my own kinsmen in this battle, nor can I, my dear Krishna, desire any subsequent victory, kingdom, or happiness. Purport. Without knowing that one's self-interest is in Vishnu or Krishna, conditioned souls are attracted by bodily relationships, hoping to be happy in such situations. In such a blind conception of life, they forget even the causes of material happiness. Arjuna appears to have even forgotten the moral codes for a Kshatriya. It is said that two kinds of men, namely the Kshatriya who dies directly in front of the battlefield under Krishna's personal orders, and the person in the renounced order of life who is absolutely devoted to spiritual culture, are eligible to enter into the sun globe, so powerful and dazzling. Arjuna is reluctant even to kill his enemies, let alone his relatives. He thinks that by killing his kinsmen there would be no happiness in his life. Sorry
about that. I was moving things around on my screen. Please.
Oh, sorry. And therefore he is not willing to fight. Just as a person who does not feel hunger is not inclined to cook, he has now decided to go into the forest and live a secluded life in frustration. But as a Kshatriya, he requires a kingdom for his subsistence, because the Kshatriyas cannot engage themselves in any other occupation. But Arjuna has no kingdom. Arjuna's sole opportunity for gaining a kingdom lies in fighting with his cousins and brothers and reclaiming the kingdom inherited from his father, which he does not like to do. Therefore, he considers himself fit to go into the forest and live a secluded life of frustration.
Okay, yes, sorry, I was just trying to find the Bhagavad Gita. Anyway, say now, sorry, I was flicking around on my screen. But there's just something here from Burijan here. Now he's quoting Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur. He's explaining, as Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur often does, he puts in his own words what Krishna is saying. Not his own words, he expresses it, he gives some details which are not maybe there in the verses. So he's expressing Arjuna's mind as follows. I will win the battle, but I will suffer greatly. Those I kill will be elevated to the sun planet, but no good reaction will come to me. Arjuna continues to explain the intolerable results he envisions. So this is the second reason that Arjuna is gay for not fighting, or is giving. Yeah, that he will not be happy, he will suffer. Yeah. And interesting, cooking's brought up again here in this purple. But any questions or comments on this? I was a little bit inattentive to the reading there of that, so I missed a few details. But if anyone has any questions on this, yeah. Yes, one's own self-interest. Prabhupada is quoting here from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Natis vidu swaada gatam hi vishnum rasha ate bahimanina. This is a verse from the 7th canto, where Prahlad Maharaj, his prayers to Lord Nrsingadev, saying that persons don't know what their self-interest is, so therefore they follow conditioned souls who are also bewildered. Thus they fall into a ditch. That's why it's interesting, if you know this verse, Prabhupada says it's such a blind conception of life. So who's referring to this verse? Because this verse goes on to say that they're like the blind leading the blind, unless they fall into a ditch. Yeah, like a blind man leading another blind man is pretty pointless. Sort of fall into a ditch. So someone who accepts a materialistic person as their leader, it's like a man leading a blind man, and they fall into a ditch. So Prabhupada, as we mentioned before, when we start to know of the verses, we can see he's paraphrasing them in a wonderful way. So he says here, one's self-interest. So that's in the verse. Then he relates to the being blind, the blind in the bodily concept of life. Yeah. Okay. Any comments on that?
Isn't it nice when you know the scriptures, like verses from different books? You can relate it like you just related it, like Prabhupada's written it as well,
Yeah, it does. Yeah, of course, there's so many verses to learn, and we can't learn all of them. But I'm sure you're familiar a lot, even without learning the verses themselves. You just by hearing, you can become familiar with how Prabhupada explains things. And it's nice. Yeah.
How is interrelated each book, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and CC, how he connects one with the other one,
Yeah. And so Arjuna's decided to live a life in seclusion, in frustration. Has anyone ever contemplated that type of thing?
Yes, often.
To lead a secluded life in, perhaps not in frustration, but perhaps in frustration.
In frustration. Say when you get an argument or something, you think, right, from now on, I'm not going to get involved with anything. I'm going to stay at home. I'm going to do this. And give it half a day or something, and you're back to square one.
Yeah, you can say that we kind of decide to live in our cave. We want to go in our cave and not come out.
Yeah. And then after a bit, you get fed up being in the cave and you're back to being with everybody and get involved again.
Yeah. But we have our duties. The same as Arjuna has his duty to perform. So this is not becoming of him to actually go to the forest and live a life of frustration. Yeah. So this is one of the main messages of the Gita, that comes across. It's one of doing one's duty. And this will be repeated in this first chapter. Kshatriyas have their duty to fight. Yeah, and that's what's purifying in life. When there's some difficulty, there's some challenge, but we have duties to do. And if we do it despite the difficulties, despite the frustration, then we become then we can actually become real human beings. Actually, we can become wise, and we can become deep in our character as well, and not whimsical. But materialistic people are always apt to give up their duties very easily. Yeah. But it cannot be happy by such a thing. Yes, so
Prabhu, I was just thinking, moving forward, it's not that running behind. It's moving forward.
yes, what I mean, like moving forward, doing our duty despite the difficulties.
Yeah.
Yeah, moving forward, yeah. And then, like, the more we do that, then the more we can find ourselves being tolerant when we're faced with difficulties. You understand how it works? Then we can, because we have the experience of going through even when the weather is not good. When, not speaking the weather, but that was a metaphorical example, but when life is not good, when life is throwing us to negative things, but we continue doing our duty. Like we have Mother Gaia with us here, and she has young children, which many of you have had. So there's lots of tests, I'm sure, she has to do, very difficult in looking after children at the same time. But she does it because that's her duty as a mother. Cannot neglect these duties. So yeah, anyway, Arjuna wants to dump his duty. All right. So
in this case, in Arjun's case, yeah, okay, he didn't want to fight. But sometimes we in that situation when we think, oh, I should do it, it's my duty. How do you know whether you're doing it for the gain or for your ego, or, like to be in that position or something?
well, when it comes to duty,
how do you work it out?
I don't know if I understood your question exactly, but duty is duty. So regardless of how we may feel or not feel, then it has to be done. And of course, when we use a more fine comb, then we can identify what may not be such a pure motive. For instance, doing it out of a sense of pride, for instance, so that people will know that we are very dutiful to our services. All right, it's not the best motive, but still we're doing our duty. And then we can work on, as again, with a fine comb, we can begin to become aware of our material, our material reasons for doing it. But we should still do it, because then it will be purifying. So we may identify, pride, we might identify, so many things, but we have a duty, so we do it. And as we're doing it, we can readjust our inspiration or our wrong inspiration for doing it. But we should never give up our duty. That's the main point.
Right. So Krishna will purify you in doing your duty.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, there may be some instances where we may have to change our duty, and duties in life will change. So, but that's done through speaking with other devotees, direction from the Diksha or the Shiksha Guru. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Should we read another verse? Who else? There was a few people with their hand up, and now, it's Mother Vajrakishore. You like to read this well-known verse, text 32 to 35.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Text 32 to 35. Kim no rajyena govinda kim bhogairjivitena va yesham arthe kakshitam no rajyam bhoga sukhani cha ya ime avasthita yuddhe pranans tyaktva dhanani cha acharya pitarah putras tathaiva cha pitamaha matula swasura prautra shala sambandhis tatha etan hantum ichchami gnato api madhusudana api trailokya rajyasya hetu kim nu mahi krute nihatya dharta rashtrana ka priti syad janardana. Translation. O Govinda, of what avail to us are a kingdom, happiness, or even life itself, when all those for whom we may desire them are now arrayed on this battlefield. O Madhusudana, when teachers, fathers, sons, grandfathers, maternal uncle, fathers-in-law, grandsons, brothers-in-law, and other relatives are ready to give up their lives and properties and are standing before me, why should I wish to kill them, even though they might otherwise kill me? O maintainer of all living entities, I am not prepared to fight with them, even in exchange for the three worlds, let alone this earth. What pleasure will we derive from killing the sons of Dhritarashtra? Purport. Arjuna has addressed
Lord Krishna as Govinda, because Krishna is the object of all pleasures for cows and senses. By using this significant word, Arjuna indicates that Krishna should understand what will satisfy Arjuna's senses, but Govinda is not meant for satisfying our senses. If we try to satisfy the senses of Govinda, however, then automatically our own senses are satisfied. Materially, everyone wants to satisfy his senses, and he wants God to be the order supplier for such satisfaction. The Lord will satisfy the senses of the living entities as much as they deserve, but not to the extent that they may covet. But when one takes the opposite way, namely, when one tries to satisfy the senses of Govinda without desiring to satisfy one's own senses, then by the grace of Govinda, all desires of the living entity are satisfied. Arjuna's deep affection for community and family members are exhibited here partly due to his natural compassion for them. He is therefore not prepared to fight. Everyone wants to show his opulence to the friends and relatives, but Arjuna fears that all his relatives and friends will be killed in the battlefield, and he will be unable to share his opulence after victory. This is typical calculation of material life. The transcendental life, however, is different. Since a devotee wants to satisfy the desires of the Lord, he can, Lord willing, accept all kinds of opulence for the service of the Lord. And if the Lord is not willing, he should not accept a farthing. Arjuna did not want to kill his relatives, and if there were any need to kill them, he desired that Krishna kill them personally. At this point, he did not know that Krishna has already killed them before their coming into the battlefield, and that he was only to become an instrument for Krishna. This fact is disclosed in the following chapters. As a natural devotee of the Lord, Arjuna did not like to retaliate against his miscreant cousins and brothers, but it was the Lord's plan that they should all be killed. The devotee of the Lord does not retaliate against the wrongdoer, but the Lord does not tolerate any mischief done to the devotee by the miscreants. The Lord can excuse a person on his own account, but he excuses no one who has done harm to his devotees. Therefore, the Lord was determined to kill the miscreants, although Arjuna wanted to excuse them.
Okay, thank you. Very nice reading of the Sanskrit as well, Mother. Very nice. Hare Krishna. There is some comments here from the acharyas as well, but before that, if there's any questions or comments on this. Okay, so interesting, the word Janardhan is being used here on Madhusudana. It says, yeah, Krishna calls, Arjuna calls Krishna Janardhan. So where is that in the verse? Is it there? Was it there? Or Govinda, he uses Govinda. Madhusudana.
Janardhan is last
Oh, yeah,
right at the
Janardhan is
bottom.
last. Okay, yeah, okay, thank you. So Janardhan means maintainer of all living entities. So Arjuna is curious that Krishna's maintainer of all living entities, but now he's asking me to kill millions of living entities. Very curious. That's why he calls them Janardhan. And you see this in Bhagavad Gita, that the names that Arjuna addresses Krishna in, it's not completely sarcastic, but he's making a point. Yeah, like for instance, he calls Krishna here, he calls him O Govinda, which means one who satisfies the senses as well, has many meanings. That's one. So he says, O Govinda. So in other words, he's saying, you're the one who satisfies everyone's senses, but I'm not feeling satisfied now. You understand? So Janardhan. And there's something from Baladev Vijay Bhushana. He says the word Janardhan has another meaning. Jana means person and Adana means the killer. Srila Baladeva Vajrabhushana explains that Arjuna calls Krishna Janardhan to suggest, oh Janardhan, if they need to be killed, then you, who are the remover of the earth's burden, you should kill them. Why? Why would Arjuna say that you should kill them?
Because he kills the miscreant.
Yeah, it does. That's it. Basically, there'd be no sinful reaction. But if Arjuna does it, there will be sinful reaction. And Prabhupada alluded to that here. He did allude to that in the purple. Here. Arjuna did not want to kill his relatives. If they only need to kill them, he desired that Krishna kill them personally. So Prabhupada, we might say, because Prabhupada was referring to the acharyas in writing his purports. So here it is. So he desired that Krishna kill them. Why? Because there will be no reaction for Krishna. They get liberation.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
There won't be any reaction, yeah.
Yeah, there won't be any reaction. So that's, I'll just read the rest of this commentary here. The Pandavas, of course, won the battle and took the throne, yet they remained in power for only, anyone know how many years? Difficult one to answer that one. 37 years, and that's not very long. Arjuna's conviction is that brief kingly pleasures are not worth the sinful reaction of suffering in hell for millions of years because of killing friends, guru, grandfathers, cousins, and other relatives. Arjuna concludes that planning for enjoyment while overlooking future suffering is foolish. He continues this reasoning in verse 36. So that's correct. This is called, there's two words called the shreyash and preyash. So preyash is those activities which give an immediate result. But there's shreyas, which means results that come in the future. So for instance, by doing a wrong deed, then okay, immediately there may or may not be a reaction, but definitely it's coming in the future. So Arjuna is kind of saying here, we're planning for enjoyment. Okay, we're going to enjoy for how long? 37 years. Then I'm going to have to suffer in hell for millions and millions of births. Yeah? So this is Arjuna's misconception, which Krishna has to clear up. No. Anything else on that? And then he continues the same vein in text 36. So let's have Nitai Mata, you like to read text 36?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Papam eva srayat asvan hatvaitan atata hina tasmanara vayam hantam dartara rastaran sapandavan savajanam hi katam hatva sukhine shama madhava. Sin will overcome us if we are such aggressors. Therefore, it is not proper for us to kill the sons of Dhritarashtra and our friends. What should we gain, O Krishna, husband of the goddess of fortune, and how could we be happy by killing our own kinsmen? According to Vedic junctions, there are 6 kinds of aggressors. A poison giver, one who sets fire to the house, one who attacks with deadly weapons, one who plunders riches, one who occupies another's land, and one who kidnaps a wife. Such aggressors are at once to be killed, and no sin is incurred by killing such aggressors. Such killing of aggressors is quite befitting any ordinary man. But Arjuna was not an ordinary person. He was saintly by character, and therefore he wanted to deal with them in saintliness. This kind of saintliness, however, is not for a Kshatriya. Although a responsible man in the administration of a state is required to be saintly, he should not be cowardly. For example, Lord Rama was so saintly that people even now are anxious to live in the kingdom of Lord Rama, Ramarajya, but Lord Rama never showed any cowardice. Ravana was an aggressor against Rama because Ravana kidnapped Rama's wife, Sita, but Lord Rama gave him sufficient lessons unparalleled in the history of the world. In Arjuna's case, however, one should consider the special type of aggressors, namely his own grandfather, own teacher, friends, sons, grandsons, etc. Because of them, Arjuna thought that he should not take the severe steps necessary against ordinary aggressors. Besides that, saintly persons are advised to forgive. Such injunctions for saintly persons are more important than any political Arjuna considered Arjuna considered that rather than kill his own kinsmen for political reasons, it would be better to forgive them on grounds of religion and saintly behavior. He did not therefore consider such killing profitable simply for the matter of temporary bodily happiness. After all, kingdoms and pleasures derived therefrom are not permanent. So why should he risk his life and eternal salvation by killing his own kinsman? Arjuna addressing of Krishna as Madhava, or the husband of goddess of fortune, is also significant in this connection. He wanted to point out to Krishna that as husband of the goddess of fortune, he should not be induce Arjuna to take up a matter which would ultimately bring about misfortune. Krishna, however, never brings misfortune to anyone, to say nothing of his devotees.
Okay, thank you. So again, this is been brought up in a commentary by Baladev Vijayabhusana, the use of the word Madhava, and Prabhupada's quoting it directly here. Madhava means the husband of the goddess of fortune. But Arjuna is perceiving nothing here. Everything here is going to be misfortunate. So he's going again, hey Madhava, hey Krishna. And can someone say something about, let me just go back, these, how can we comment on these 6 here? These 6 reasons why aggressors should be killed. Well, you mentioned 6 kinds of aggressors. Sorry?
Well, the Kauravas did all these 6, didn't they?
Yeah, that's it. Simple as
Yeah.
that. So we all know that, yeah. They wants to be killed. Let's just go through them. Those of you who know our Mahabharata to some degree. So what about a poison giver? Can someone tell that story briefly?
Bhim was given those poison ladus and then thrown
Poison
into
ladus,
the
was
river.
it? I didn't realize it was ladus. It's poison, yeah, he was given poison cake, but now Raj Kishore is, because she makes ladus for Krishna. She's Krishna's ladu maker. So she's letting us know some insight there. That's a detail I never knew before, that he was poisoned by ladus. So yeah, and then what happened to Bhima when he was poisoned?
Duryodhan gave him the poison and then threw him in the river Yamuna. And then Bhim arrived right into the Vibhavari, and the snakes there bit him and took away his poison instead.
Yeah.
And then he was given a boon, and he had enough energy of 10,000 elephants, and he was brought back up.
Yeah, that was it. He was, not only the poison was taken away, but he was given a boon to have strength of 10,000 elephants. So it definitely backfired on Duryodhan. So that's one, yeah, poison giver. And the other, number 2, we all know that one. Someone can tell the basic story of this. One who sets fire to the house.
Lakshagraha,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah, the house of lack. You can tell us that story in brief?
I'm not sure. They made it such a way that there is no exit and it is made of full of lack. In order to save them, Vidura sends the mice and they find the exit, how to get out of it. Duryodhan plots against the Pandavas to kill them in that house.
Yeah, and who was the person who advised the Pandavas?
Vidura.
Oh, yeah,
Vidura.
Vidura. Yeah, so the house was built with an exit. And but there was some bodies found there which convinced Duryodhan that he was successful.
Yeah.
And who was
Oh,
those
yeah.
bodies? It's bodies of some servants or something. Anyone know that detail?
House decorators. There was something, a mother and her 5 sons.
Yeah, that was.
But
yeah,
I have
so,
a question regarding this.
I think
yeah,
I have
they're
a question. Pandavas set fire themselves to the house and then ran for the tunnel.
Yeah,
really?
because
Is that the story? Is that the
Yeah,
story?
that's what I hear, because they set the fire themselves so they could choose the time of escape
yes.
Okay.
when they
Okay.
finish the tunnel. So this is technically, they intended to set the fire, the Kauravas, but they didn't. So,
Okay.
but still,
that's-
all the other 5 are there.
Okay, we'll accept that. Okay, that's fine. I mean, I wasn't aware of that detail.
It was meant to be the next day, but then Vidura sent a message to
Better get
do
out
it
now.
the day before. Yeah, to do
Yeah.
the day before.
Yeah.
And then the lady was there with the kids and
Yeah. And what I found the nice about this part of the Mahabharata, was very exciting, is that Duryodhan and co, they're all convinced that the Pandavas have died, so they artificially do the last rites and artificially mourn and everything like that. But really, they're celebrating, Shukuni and others, that the Pandavas are finally dead. And then who comes walking into the kingdom sometime later? No, actually, what was the first sign that the Pandavas weren't dead? What actually happened?
They went on and they married Draupadi first. They didn't
Yeah.
show up for a year.
Yeah, well, there was a Swayamvara ceremony, wasn't it? Am I getting this correct? And so all different warriors were trying for the hand of Draupadi, wasn't it?
Draupadi, yeah. They were,
Yeah.
yeah.
So then Arjuna came along and no one knew. Everyone thought the Pandavas were dead. So then Arjuna won the hand of Draupadi. And then it became revealed that he was the Pandavas. And then the Pandavas
They're
came
still
to the
alive,
city.
yeah.
Yeah. And does anyone recall what did Arjuna have to do to get the hand of Draupadi?
The fish, isn't it?
Right, because there's 2 instances.
He has to shoot,
This is the-
yeah. Bow arrow it.
Yeah, that's it. There was a wheel, and let's have a get this right. There was a fish, and a spoked wheel was under it, and Arjuna had to look into the reflection of the water, which showed that without looking up, he had to
Looking
fire
up,
the arrow
yeah.
that would hit the eye of the fish through the spokes of a wheel.
Hmm.
Pretty impossible task, but of course Arjuna is empowered by Krishna and he's shot.
Yes.
And then, sorry, I'm asking the Mahabharata questions here. So then Arjuna brings back Draupadi to the encampment. And what does he say?
distribute between the 5 of you.
No, yeah, there's
Especially for the share it, yeah.
Yeah. Kunti's the mother, isn't it? I get this right, yeah.
Yeah, Kunti is the mother.
Yeah, he says, look what I have bought. And Kunti, without seeing, whatever you have bought should be shared equally among the brothers. Oops.
Oops. Oops.
There's one.
Wife.
And then there's a whole part in the Mahabharata where, because Draupadi's father is a little bit concerned.
Father didn't agree for that. He wasn't happy about that. Yeah.
Drupad, isn't it? Drupad, is that right? Is that?
Drupad, yeah.
Yeah. So that is a whole discussion.
Another discussion.
So another question in that discussion, and evidence was brought up from the Srimad Bhagavatam. We have it in the Srimad Bhagavatam. given an example of the same thing, where where more than one man marries one wife.
Yeah.
What evidence was that? You get 10 points for getting this question.
Wasn't it? She prayed and she said she wants. She asked for 4 or 5 things what she wanted from her husband, but then
yeah,
I think. Am I right? Yeah, it's a while ago.
Yeah, I have some basic recall of that part. Yeah, that's there as well.
Yeah.
That's given
And
as
then-
a reason why she married 5 men.
Yeah,
But
and
the
there's
reason-
another reason as well. There's 2 actually, I remember.
Yeah, another evidence is given.
Yeah, I think she asked for the boon 5 times, although she wanted one husband. She was so keen to get one husband. She said, "Give me a husband, give me a husband," and she said
Yeah.
something like that 5 times.
Then the
So I
word
heard
can't be
she asked
taken back here.
for many qualities which could not, one person could not possess. She wanted the best archer, the most beautiful,
Okay.
and that's why I couldn't fit in one person.
Okay. So the brothers were considered I think
I think as well
Nakula
as
and-
Labaga Mataji was saying as
Sahadev.
well, that 5 times as well.
Yeah. But the example given
Yeah.
is given of the Pachetas. They married the daughter of the moon. There's a whole story there in the Srimad Bhagavatam, so that was cited as an evidence. And another interesting evidence is that because Yudhisthira, who's Dharma personified, he never even thought of an irreligious act, it never entered his mind. It was so dharmic, but because this settled within his mind, it was considered as an evidence that it wasn't overstepping religious principles. That's how dharmic Yudhisthira was. It settled in his mind, and he accepted, so they accepted it. Anyway, so like that, there's a big discussion. So that's one who plunders riches. This might be an easy one as well. So what's the example of that?
Sorry, which one we doing? I'm sorry, confused. Sorry,
Number
say that
4,
again.
one who plunders.
Okay.
No, this one, 3. One who attacks
Number
with deadly
3, one
weapons.
who attacks with deadly weapon.
Well, before the Battle of Kurukshetra actually took place, there was battles between the Pandavas and the Kauravas. Specifically, there was one battle towards the end of their being banished, and it was just Arjuna who was facing a number of the Pandava warriors. They attacked him. I was attacking him, but he routed them or he beat them. Anyone else can think of battles that took place before the Mahabharata war, the main war?
Didn't it, Uttara's brother had to fight? Uttara's brother went to fight, but he wasn't so strong. So Arjun went with him, and wasn't his weapons in a tree, and then he got them like that.
Yeah. So there is many examples of this one, and Chandrawal is mentioning one. So number 4, one who plunders riches. It's an easy one.
So, Shakuni and Duryodhan playing the trick and taking away all the riches of the Pandavas.
Yeah,
Gambling.
the gambling match, basically.
The gambling match, yeah.
The gambling match. And one who occupies another's land.
That's Duryodhan taking everything off.
It has to
Yeah.
everything, yeah. The Duryodhan
Yeah.
taking everything, yeah.
And what's the famous statement that Duryodhan made when Krishna on their behalf asked for at least 5 villages?
He will not give even a needle size of a land to the
Yeah,
Pandavas.
I will not give you enough land where you can drive a pin. Because the idea is they're actually Kshatriyas. So, okay, we won't have the kingdom, but at least give us 5 villages that we can rule over.
He wasn't interested, was he?
And if Duryodhana had given that, then they would have accepted it.
Exactly,
Instead,
yeah.
in his envy, I will not give them enough land to drive a pin.
No, but Duryodhana knew better. If he knew that if he just gives one village to the Pandavas,
Yeah, they would become.
they will soon
they would
take over the
prosper.
entire kingdom.
Yeah.
They were strong enough. So he
And
won't let
because that's what happened before, wasn't it? They was given a certain patch of land which was arid and not very prosperous, and because of their presence, the Pandavas, that land became, was it Indraprastha?
Indraprastha.
Yeah, it became
Indraprastha,
more.
yeah.
It became more opulent. than the
Exactly.
kingdom of Duryodhana. And he was already envious of the Pandavas. So you can imagine how that was eating him alive. We're giving them practically a desert to live in. Now it's become more opulent than the heavenly planets. So he's really burning with envy. And this one we know, one who kidnaps a wife. How can we explain that one?
Draupadi?
Yeah, and how? What can you explain to how? In what way was she kidnapped? How was this relevant?
Wasn't very nice, just dragged her,
Hoping.
pulled her hair,
Yeah,
pulled her hair, and it was very, very not nice to see that. Yeah, horrible to
yeah.
see.
So that's
Very
the gambling match again. So they plundered, and that was one of the main reasons this war was taking place, because of the overstepping of Dharma, of insulting a chaste wife. Yeah. Now, let me just. Yeah, okay. So this part of this commentary is just explaining exactly it's given details of all these six. So any other comments or questions on this? Again, Arjuna's become concerned overcoming by sin.
kidnapping the wife, that goes for that Jayadratha who tried to kidnap Draupadi, but the Pandavas managed to catch him instead. And then Yudhishthira let go of him because he was Lakshmana's husband, or Duryodhana's brother-in-law. So it was a family.
Yeah, why you're bringing up, Abba? What's the context you're mentioning that?
It's a kidnapping of the wife, one who
Oh,
kidnaps her.
okay. Yeah, actually you're right. Yeah, correct. Yeah, thank you for reminding us of that. Yeah, she's kidnapped there. And I just something to read here. Artha Sastra allows that such aggressors be killed. Why then does Arjuna say sin will overcome him by killing them? Because it says in Sastra they can be killed. According to Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, Arjuna is speaking from the level of Dharma Sastra, not Artha Sastra. So there's difference. Dharma Sastra, which is more authoritative, propounds that killing one's friends and relatives is never permitted. So these different sastras or the different principles of religion are being put forward. And that's the context where Krishna says, just give up all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. He's not meaning giving up being religious. Sometimes it's misunderstood. But because different sastras have been quoted, like here, here's two, Artha Sastra and Dharma Sastra. So chapter 18, Krishna says, Arjuna, forget all of these other sastras and just do what I'm telling you. I shall give you protection. Give up all varieties of different sastras or different religion and just surrender unto me. Do not fear. So he kind of summarizes the whole thing, in one sentence. Give up all of this and just surrender unto me. Right, anything else about we can bring out of here, of this verse in purple? If not, we can go on. Okay, we have 10 minutes left. Let's go to text 37 and 38. Anyone like to read? Otherwise, I could read this one then. And Yati api et Yadi api etana pasyanti lobupahata chetasah Kurakashaya kritam dosham mitra drohe cha patakam katam na kenayam ashmapi papat ashman nivatitum Kurakashaya kritam dosham apyastvi janadana. Translation. O Janardana, although these men, their hearts overcome by greed, see no fault in killing one's family or quarreling with friends, why should we, who can see the crime in destroying a family, engage in these acts of sin? Purple. A Kshatriya is not supposed to refuse to battle or gamble when he is so invited by some rival party. Under such an obligation, Arjuna could not refuse to fight because he had been challenged by the party of Duryodhana. In this connection, Arjuna considered that the other party might be blind to the effects of such a challenge. Arjuna, however, could see the evil consequences and could not accept the challenge. Obligation is actually binding when the effect is good, but when the effect is otherwise, then no one can be bound. Considering all these pros and cons, Arjuna decided not to fight. Against 37, 38. I'm just reading a little commentary here. Arjuna fears that ensuing Arjuna fears the ensuing horror of two powerful dynasties fighting and destroying each other. This is Arjuna's third reason not to fight. Kshatriya spirit engendered family pride. Kshatriyas upheld the pious family traditions and passed them on to future generations. What would happen if all the Kshatriyas were killed? The entire society, which depended on the authority of Vedic kings, would fall into disarray. No sacrifices would be performed for the forefathers or future generations. Young men would become unrestrained, frivolous, and impure. Vanquishing a powerful royal dynasty would in fact make the future of the entire world dim and bring unlimited misfortune. Arjuna understood all this. That's pretty fair, isn't it? That's a pretty fair argument, would we say? Yeah, Arjuna's thinking of the benefit of the whole world and the future without Kshatriyas. And the next verse describes more. Yeah. Varna Shankara, then in text 40. Yeah. Any questions or curiosities about this verse here? Quite straightforward, I guess. Yeah, Arjuna, he can, again, we mentioned this point, Duryodhana doesn't give a damn. Duryodhana's not going to think of these things. He just wants the Pandavas killed, and the Kauravas are on the throne. But Arjuna's not thinking like that. Yeah, he's thinking of the consequences in the future. Okay, let's have someone read text 39. You can read again if you like. Nitai Mata has a hand, maybe still up or up again. But you're quite welcome to read again, Mother.
Okay, I didn't put my hand down.
Okay, so you've been chosen.
Thank you. Okay,
Very good.
let's do it. Thank you, Prabhu. Oh, I closed the book as well. Sorry.
139.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. Kula, can't see that properly. Kulankeshe pranasyante kula dharma sanatana dharme naste kulam krishnam adharmo bhavate uttha. When the destruction of dynasty, the eternal family tradition is vanquished, and thus the rest of the family becomes involved in irreligion. Popat Bashara Popat Jashara Popat. In the system of the Varnashram institution, There are many principles of religious traditions to help members of the family grow properly and attain spiritual values. The elder members are responsible for such purifying processes in the family, beginning from birth to death. But on the death of the elder members, such family traditions of purification may stop, and the remaining younger family members may develop religious habits and thereby uh, lose their chance for spiritual salvation. Therefore, for no purpose should be the elder members of the family be slain.
Okay, so let's go straight into the next verse because we'll probably finish on this verse. It's quite quite a prominent verse. So someone like to read this verse and we'll conclude
I can
today's
read.
reading. Yes, go ahead, Mother.
I can read if you show me the text.
Okay,
Okay.
It's here. It's on the screen now. Oh,
Okay,
on the text.
140.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you show me the Sanskrit, please?
Yes, there you go.
Okay. Adharma bhibavat Krishna pradushyanti kulastriya strishu dushtasu varshneya jayate varna sankara. Okay.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
English? Thank you. When irreligion is prominent in the family, O Krishna, the women of the family become polluted, and from the degradation of womanhood, O descendant of Vrishni, comes unwanted progeny. Purport. Good population in human society is the basic principle for peace, prosperity, and spiritual progress in life. The Varnashrama religion's principles were so designed that the good population would prevail in society for the general spiritual progress of state and community. Such population depends on the chastity and faithfulness of its womanhood. As children are very prone to be misled, women are similarly very prone to degradation. Therefore, both children and women require protection by the elder members of the family. By being engaged in various religious practices, women will not be misled into adultery. According to Chanakya Pandita, women are generally not very intelligent and therefore not trustworthy. So the different family traditions of religious activities should always engage them, and thus their chastity and devotion will give birth to a good population eligible for participating in the Varnashrama system. On the failure of such Varnashrama dharma, naturally women are free to act and mix with men, and thus adultery is indulged in at the risk of unwanted population. Irresponsible men also provoke adultery in society, and thus unwanted children flood the human race at the risk of war and pestilence.
Okay, thank you. So perhaps we'll leave this on a cliffhanger. There may be a few questions and discussion on this purple, but the next verse continues in the same vein. So perhaps we'll leave that hopefully for tomorrow. Okay? Leave it on the cliffhanger. If there's any questions or discussions we can. I hope that's okay because here it's 8 o'clock here. So it's a bit late. Okay, so
Yeah.
tomorrow I'll be on the road to another temple, so I hope I can reach in time. We'll be leaving here about 2:30, 3 o'clock. We're traveling to Villa Vrindavan next. So if I'm not going to be in place, then I shall let you know in good time. Okay? Hopefully
Okay,
we
thank
should be
you.
there. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Muli Prabhu. His grace, Muli Prabhu ki jai.
Everyone, ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Kalparuvischa kripa sindhueva patitanam
Patanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo
Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.